Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the shadowy halls of medieval monasteries, where the only sounds breaking the pre-dawn silence are your own footsteps echoing off cold stone walls and the distant drip of water somewhere in the darkness. You're living in a world where time isn't announced by smartphone alarms or digital clocks. It's measured by the steady consumption of wax, the flicker of flames, and the ingenuity of monks who needed to wake up at ungodly hours to praise God. You probably won't survive the 4 a.m. prayer schedule these holy men maintained for centuries. But tonight, we'll explore how they managed it with nothing but candles, creativity, and an almost supernatural dedication to punctuality. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and what time you're listening to this. I love seeing where in the world people are winding down for the night. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself in 12th century Europe, where monasteries dot the landscape like scattered candles in the darkness. These aren't just religious buildings. They're complex communities operating on schedules so precise they'd make modern corporations weep with envy. The monks living here follow what's called the divine office, a series of prayer services that must occur at specific times throughout the day and night. Matins at midnight, lauds at dawn, prime at sunrise, 7 services total, each requiring the entire community to gather in the chapel regardless of weather, illness, or that persistent desire to stay buried under wool blankets. But here's the problem that would keep any medieval monk awake at night if they weren't already committed to being awake anyway. How do you wake up at precise times when mechanical clocks won't be invented for another century? Water clocks exist, sure, but they freeze in winter and evaporate in summer. Sundials work great until the sun goes down, which is precisely when monks need them most. Sand timers are useful for short intervals, but you can't exactly trust Brother Francis to flip the hourglass every hour while he's supposed to be sleeping. The solution, as with many medieval innovations, came from combining practical necessity with whatever materials happened to be lying around. In this case, that meant candles, lots and lots of candles. Monasteries consumed wax like modern teenagers consume Wi-Fi bandwidth, burning through hundreds of pounds annually for illumination alone. But some enterprising monk, whose name history has unfortunately forgotten, looked at a burning candle one evening and realized something profound. Fire consumes wax at a remarkably consistent rate. This observation would birth an entire science of temporal measurement that historians still argue whether it originated in European monasteries or was adapted from Chinese and Arabic sources. What we know for certain is that by the High Middle Ages, monasteries across Europe were using candle clocks not just to measure time, but to create the world's first reliable alarm systems. You're witnessing the birth of precision timekeeping in Western civilization, developed by men who'd taken vows of poverty, but possessed minds wealthy with innovation. These weren't just religious zealots mindlessly following ancient traditions. They were engineers, craftsmen, and scientists disguised in rough brown robes. They understood that serving God required more than faith. It demanded precision, reliability, and the kind of technological innovation that would make their prayer schedule run smoother than most modern offices manage their meetings. The candle clock revolution was about to begin, and you're standing right at the center of it, watching monks transform simple wax cylinders into sophisticated timing devices that would influence clockmaking for centuries to come. Every flicker of flame you see represents not just light, but humanity's relentless drive to measure, control, and master time itself, all in service of waking up really, really early to sing hymns in Latin. You're traveling back even further now, beyond medieval Europe to the ancient civilizations that first discovered time hiding in plain sight within burning wax. The Chinese were using candle clocks as early as 520 CE, crafting elaborate timepieces from carefully measured candles marked with incremental lines. Picture yourself in a Tang Dynasty courtyard, watching scholars burn specially prepared candles that consumed exactly one marking every 2 hours. Though you'd probably complain about the lack of Netflix after about 10 minutes of this entertainment. The science behind candle timekeeping is deceptively simple, yet surprisingly sophisticated. A candle burns at a consistent rate because combustion follows predictable chemical laws that medieval monks obviously didn't understand in terms of molecular chemistry, but grasped intuitively through centuries of observation. Wax melts at a steady temperature. The wick draws fuel upward through capillary action, and oxygen feeds the flame at a relatively constant rate, assuming you control for variables like air currents, humidity, and the quality of both wax and wick materials. You discover that different cultures developed wildly different approaches to candle timekeeping. The Chinese embedded incense into their candles, creating timepieces that not only measured hours, but released specific fragrances at predetermined intervals. Imagine waking up not to a jarring alarm sound, but to the gentle scent of jasmine wafting through your bedroom, though historians still argue whether this was intentional aromatherapy or just a happy accident of combining two existing technologies. Arabic scholars took candle clocks in yet another direction, developing mathematical formulas to account for seasonal variations in air density and temperature that affected burn rates. They understood that a candle burning in summer's heat would consume wax faster than the same candle in winter's cold, so they created adjustment tables more complex than your tax returns. These weren't just timepieces. They were precision instruments requiring genuine scientific understanding. But here's where the story gets interesting for our medieval monks. They didn't just inherit these ancient techniques wholesale. Instead, you watch them adapt and improve upon centuries of accumulated knowledge, combining Chinese precision with Arabic mathematics, and adding their own innovations born from the specific challenges of monastic life. They needed alarm clocks, not just timers, and that requirement would drive innovations that ancient civilizations never attempted. The materials available to European monasteries differed significantly from those used by earlier civilizations. Chinese candle makers had access to high-quality beeswax and specialized wicks made from particular plant fibers. Arabic clockmakers could import exotic waxes and oils from across their trade networks. But European monks worked with whatever they could produce locally: tallow from monastery livestock, beeswax from their own hives, and wicks twisted from hemp or flax grown in monastery gardens. This limitation became their strength. You observe monks developing candle-making techniques specifically optimized for timekeeping rather than illumination. They learned to blend different waxes for consistent burn rates, discovered which wick materials provided the most stable flames, and developed quality control methods that would impress modern manufacturing engineers. Brother Joseph might not understand polymer chemistry, but he could tell you exactly why adding a pinch of salt to molten wax would make his candles burn more evenly. The transition from simple timekeeping to alarm functionality required a conceptual leap that you can almost see happening in real time as monks experimented with their candle technology. Ancient civilizations used candle clocks to know what time it was. Monks needed them to announce when specific times arrived. This difference in purpose would drive innovations that transformed candle clocks from passive measuring devices into active alarm systems. You're watching the medieval equivalent of the transition from analog watches to digital alarms, except instead of circuits and batteries, monks were working with wax chemistry and gravity. They understood that timing prayer services required not just accuracy, but reliability under the harsh conditions of unheated stone buildings in northern European winters. Their candle clocks needed to work when water clocks froze, when sundials disappeared under clouds, and when the monastery's single bell ringer was sick with whatever medieval ailment was making the rounds that month. The foundation was being laid for innovations that would make medieval monasteries the most punctual institutions in Europe, all thanks to the humble candle and the brilliant minds hidden beneath those brown hoods. You step into the monastery workshop where Brother Albertus is hunched over his workbench, surrounded by pools of hardened wax and the tools that will revolutionize medieval timekeeping. The air smells of beeswax, tallow, and that particular scent of focused concentration that comes from men who have figured out how to solve impossible problems with whatever happens to be lying around. This is where ancient candle clock technology meets the specific demands of monastic life, and you're about to witness innovations that would make modern engineers nod with approval if they could stop laughing at the medieval setting long enough to appreciate the genius. The challenge facing these monks was uniquely complex. Unlike Chinese scholars who used candle clocks to track leisurely study sessions, or Arabic astronomers who needed precise timing for celestial observations, Monks required alarm systems that would wake dozens of men from deep sleep at multiple predetermined times throughout the night. You watch Brother Albertus testing different candle configurations, muttering prayers that sound suspiciously like engineering calculations disguised as religious devotion. Historians still argue whether the alarm mechanism was invented simultaneously across multiple monasteries or spread from a single innovative community. But the evidence suggests that by the 13th century, Benedictine monasteries from England to Germany were independently developing remarkably similar solutions. The basic principle was brilliant in its simplicity. If you can make a candle burn for a predetermined duration, you just need to make it wake people up when it finishes burning. The first breakthrough came from understanding candle geometry. You observe monks crafting candles with carefully calculated dimensions, not just length, which determines total burn time, but diameter and taper angles that affect burn rate stability. A candle that burns too quickly might alarm everyone an hour early. One that burns too slowly leaves the entire community snoring through matins, while God presumably checks his watch with divine annoyance. Brother Albertus shows you his measurement techniques, using thumb widths and hand spans with accuracy that would satisfy a modern quality control inspector. These weren't random craftsmen dabbling in timepiece construction. They were developing standardized manufacturing processes centuries before the Industrial Revolution made such concepts mainstream. Each monastery developed its own unit measurements based on locally available materials. But within those communities, candle production achieved remarkable consistency. The wick technology alone represents a fascinating area of medieval innovation that rarely receives proper historical attention. You learn that different wick materials burn at different rates, produce varying amounts of light, and create distinct flame characteristics that affect overall candle performance. Monks experimented with hemp, flax, cotton when available, and even rushes harvested from nearby wetlands. They discovered that braided wicks burn more steadily than twisted ones, that wick thickness must be precisely matched to candle diameter, and that properly prepared wicks could be manipulated to create predictable flame behaviors. But the real innovation was yet to come. Simple candle timers could measure duration, but they couldn't wake sleeping monks unless someone stayed awake to watch them burn down. You watch Brother Albertus examining a candle with several small metal objects embedded in its side at carefully measured intervals. These aren't decorative elements, they're the key components of the world's first automatic alarm system. The metal pieces, usually iron nails or small bronze rings, serve a dual purpose. As the candle burns down and reaches each embedded object, the metal either falls onto a waiting metal plate below, creating an audible clang, or drops into a container of water, producing a splash loud enough to wake nearby sleepers. Some monasteries developed elaborate systems where falling metal pieces would trigger secondary mechanisms, knocking over pottery, ringing small bells, or even releasing weights that would strike larger alarm devices. You're witnessing the birth of mechanical alarm technology developed by men who understood both the spiritual importance of punctual prayer and the practical engineering required to make it happen. These monk engineers were solving problems that wouldn't be addressed by commercial alarm clock manufacturers for another 500 years, using materials and techniques that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of physics principles they couldn't formally articulate, but had mastered through observation and experimentation. The workshop around you represents more than religious devotion. It's a research and development center where faith meets engineering, where the practical demands of serving God drive technological innovation that will influence timekeeping development for centuries to come. You find yourself standing beside Brother Wilhelmus in the monastery's candlery, watching him test burn rates with the methodical precision of a modern laboratory technician. The shelves around you hold samples of different wax types, each labeled with cryptic marks indicating burn duration, stability ratings, and seasonal performance notes. This isn't just craftsmanship. It's applied materials science developed by men who understood empirical testing centuries before the scientific method was formally codified. The wax itself tells a fascinating story of medieval resourcefulness. You observe Brother Wilhelmus blending beeswax with tallow in carefully measured proportions, creating custom formulations optimized for specific timing requirements. Pure beeswax burns cleanly and consistently, but costs more than most monasteries could afford for daily use. Pure tallow burns cheaply, but produces inconsistent flames and unpleasant odors that even medieval noses found objectionable. The solution was blending, typically 3 parts tallow to 1 part beeswax, creating candles that balanced economy with performance. But here's where medieval monks demonstrated genuine scientific thinking. They documented everything. You examine Brother Wilhelmus's notebooks, filled with observations about how different wax ratios perform under various conditions. Humid weather slows burn rates. Cold temperatures make flames smaller and more stable. High altitudes, relevant for monasteries built on mountainsides, affect oxygen availability and thus combustion characteristics. These aren't casual observations, but systematic data collection that would satisfy modern quality control standards. The wick science gets even more sophisticated. You watch monks preparing wicks from hemp fibers, but not just any hemp preparation. They've discovered that soaking wick material in salt water and then drying it thoroughly creates wicks that burn more evenly and resist the mushrooming effect that makes flames inconsistent. Some monasteries add small amounts of boric acid, obtained from naturally occurring borax deposits, to further improve wick performance, though historians still argue whether this was intentional chemistry or lucky accident. Temperature control becomes crucial when you realize these candle clocks must function reliably in medieval buildings that barely qualify as as weather resistant. Stone walls conduct cold, making interior temperatures fluctuate dramatically between day and night. You observe ingenious solutions, protective lanterns around timing candles, placement strategies that utilize thermal mass from stone walls, and even primitive insulation techniques using straw and cloth to create more stable microclimates around critical timepieces. The mathematics involved would challenge modern students. Monks developed ratio systems for calculating burn times based on candle dimensions, wax composition, and environmental factors. A candle 1 inch in diameter and 6 inches tall, made from their standard tallow beeswax blend, burning in normal temperature conditions, would consume approximately 1 inch of length per hour. But humidity might slow that rate by 10%, while dry conditions could accelerate it by 15%. Cold weather might extend burn time by 20%, requiring seasonal adjustments to maintain accuracy. Quality control methods emerged from bitter experience with timing failures. You watch Brother Wilhelmus performing what he calls the proof burning, testing representative candles from each batch to verify consistency before using them for actual alarm purposes. Failed batches get recycled into general-purpose candles for illumination, while approved batches receive special storage treatment to prevent deterioration that might affect timing accuracy. The storage science alone represents remarkable medieval innovation. Candles stored in damp conditions absorb moisture that affects burn rates. Those exposed to temperature fluctuations develop internal stress cracks that create unpredictable combustion patterns. Successful monastery workshops developed climate-controlled storage areas, typically underground chambers with consistent temperatures and controlled humidity levels achieved through careful ventilation design and natural thermal regulation. You're discovering that these monks weren't just making candles. They were developing manufacturing processes, quality assurance systems, and performance testing protocols that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of materials science principles. They understood that serving God through punctual prayer required mastering the physical laws governing combustion, thermal dynamics, and materials chemistry, even if they described their knowledge in religious rather than scientific terms. Brother Wilhelmus shows you his masterpiece, a candle clock so precisely calibrated it can measure not just hours, but quarter hours with accuracy that rivals mechanical timepieces invented centuries later. This isn't primitive technology, it's appropriate technology, developed by brilliant minds working within their available resources to solve complex problems with elegant efficiency. You're watching Brother Godwin carefully hammering thin iron nails into the side of a freshly made candle, each nail positioned with mathematical precision that would impress a modern clockmaker. The workshop around you rings with the gentle tapping of hammers against metal as multiple monks prepare alarm candles for the coming week's prayer schedule. This is where medieval timekeeping transforms from passive measurement into active alarm technology, and you're witnessing the birth of automated wake-up system centuries before electricity made such things commonplace. The nail placement requires calculations that make your high school geometry seem simple by comparison. Brother Godwin must account for candle burn rate, which varies with diameter, nail weight, which affects how loudly it falls, and drop height, which determines the volume of impact sound. Too high, and the falling nail might wake the entire monastery. Too low, and it won't wake anyone at all. You watch him test different configurations, dropping sample nails from various heights onto different surface materials, listening carefully to evaluate volume levels that will reliably wake sleeping monks without creating unnecessary noise. The metallurgy involved demonstrates sophisticated understanding of material science. Iron nails work well for creating sharp, attention-getting sounds, but they rust in damp monastery conditions and can stain candle wax. Bronze nails resist corrosion, but cost significantly more and produce softer impact sounds that might not penetrate deep sleep. Some monasteries developed hybrid systems using iron nails coated with beeswax to prevent rusting, while others experimented with small bells or metal rings that create more melodious alarm sounds. Historians still argue whether the nail dropping technique originated in European monasteries or was adapted from Chinese candle clock technology, but the European implementation shows distinctly Western innovations. Chinese systems typically used falling objects to mark time passage. Monks needed systems specifically designed to wake people up. This functional difference drove engineering solutions that prioritized acoustic effectiveness over mere timekeeping accuracy. You observe the testing process that ensures reliability under real-world conditions. Brother Godwin doesn't just drop nails onto wooden surfaces in the quiet workshop. He tests alarm sounds in the actual dormitory spaces where monks sleep, accounting for stone wall acoustics, background noise from snoring brothers, and the sound dampening effects of wool blankets and straw mattresses. These aren't theoretical calculations, but empirical testing that demonstrates genuine engineering methodology. The positioning strategy becomes an art form in itself. Nails placed too close to the candle's center might fall into the melted wax pool and make no sound at all. Those positioned too far from the center create instability that affects burn rate accuracy. The optimal placement requires understanding candle geometry, wax flow patterns, and thermal dynamics that would challenge modern materials engineers. You watch Brother Godwin marking nail positions with tools he's crafted specifically for this purpose. Rulers calibrated to monastery-specific measurements and marking devices that ensure consistent placement across multiple candles. But the real innovation lies in creating multi-stage alarm systems for complex scheduling requirements. A single candle might need to provide multiple wake-up calls throughout the night. One nail for matins at midnight, another for lauds at dawn, and a third for prime at sunrise. You observe candles with 6 or 7 nails embedded at carefully calculated intervals, creating automated scheduling systems that manage the monastery's entire daily routine without requiring human intervention. The acoustic engineering extends beyond simple noise creation. Different monasteries developed signature alarm sounds that monks could identify even in deep sleep. Some used nails falling onto copper plates for bright, penetrating tones. Others dropped weights into water containers, creating splashing sounds that gradually increase in volume as water displacement grows. The most sophisticated systems combined multiple sound types: a nail drop, followed by a secondary mechanism triggered by the falling nail's impact. Weather compensation becomes crucial when you realize these alarm systems must function reliably regardless of seasonal conditions. Humid summer air makes metal surfaces slippery, potentially causing nails to slide rather than fall cleanly. Winter cold makes metal brittle and affects sound transmission through dense air. You watch Brother Godwin developing seasonal adjustment techniques, different nail types for different weather conditions, alternative impact surfaces that perform consistently across temperature ranges, and backup alarm systems for critical wake-up calls that absolutely cannot fail. The psychological aspects of alarm design show remarkable understanding of human sleep patterns. Monks discovered that sharp, sudden sounds work better for waking people than gradual volume increases. They learned that certain frequencies penetrate sleep more effectively than others, and that alarm sounds must be distinctive enough to avoid confusion with normal monastery noises like wind, settling stones, or nocturnal animals. You're witnessing the development of personalized alarm technology as individual monks customize their candle clocks for their own sleep patterns and responsibilities. You find yourself in Brother Cornelius's workshop, where the air carries the sound of dripping water and the gentle hiss of candle flames reflected in carefully positioned brass mirrors. Here, medieval engineering reaches new heights of sophistication as monks combine flame-based timing with water displacement mechanisms, creating hybrid alarm systems that make modern snooze buttons seem primitive by comparison. The integration of these technologies represents the pinnacle of pre-mechanical timekeeping, and you're watching masters at work. The basic principle appears deceptively simple until you observe the precision required for reliable operation. A burning candle sits positioned above a water container, with the flame's heat gradually warming a sealed vessel that controls water flow through a carefully calibrated opening. As the candle burns down and moves closer to the water system, thermal expansion changes the pressure inside the sealed container, affecting the rate at which water drips into a collection basin below. When the basin fills to a predetermined level, it triggers an alarm mechanism. But getting all these variables to work together requires engineering skills that would challenge modern technicians. You watch Brother Cornelius adjusting the brass fittings that control water flow rates, using tools he's crafted specifically for this delicate work. The metalworking alone represents remarkable medieval craftsmanship. each component must be precisely machined by hand, using techniques passed down through monastery workshops to create watertight seals that function reliably over extended periods. A leak anywhere in the system throws off timing calculations that took months to perfect through trial and error testing. The thermal dynamics involved make your college physics seem elementary. Candle flame temperature varies with air pressure, humidity, and available oxygen. Water expansion rates change with temperature, but not linearly. The relationship follows complex curves that medieval monks understood intuitively without formal mathematical training. You observe Brother Cornelius making minute adjustments to component positions, compensating for thermal effects with precision that demonstrates deep understanding of heat transfer principles he couldn't formally articulate, but had mastered through careful observation. Historians still argue whether these integrated systems represent independent monastic innovation or adaptation of Islamic mechanical clock technology, but the European implementations show distinctly Western approaches to solving timing challenges. Islamic water clocks emphasized astronomical accuracy for prayer timing. Monastic systems prioritized reliability for alarm functions. This difference in purpose drove engineering solutions focused on wake-up effectiveness rather than pure timekeeping precision. The alarm mechanisms themselves showcase medieval creativity at its finest. Some systems use rising water levels to float wooden indicators that strike bells when they reach predetermined heights. Others employ siphon principles to create sudden water releases that trigger complex mechanical sequences, weights dropping, bells ringing, even primitive music box mechanisms that play specific melodies for different prayer times. You're watching the ancestors of modern alarm clocks being born from combinations of fire, water, and ingenious mechanical linkages. Quality control becomes exponentially more complex when multiple systems must coordinate reliably. Brother Cornelius shows you his testing protocols, which involve running complete alarm sequences under various environmental conditions to verify consistent performance. Temperature changes affect both candle burn rates and water behavior. Humidity influences metal component function and water evaporation rates. Air pressure variations, particularly important for monasteries at different altitudes, affect both combustion and liquid dynamics in ways that require systematic compensation. The seasonal adjustment techniques demonstrate sophisticated understanding of environmental variables. Summer heat makes water expand and candles burn faster, while winter cold creates the opposite effects. But these changes don't occur proportionally. Water thermal expansion follows different rates than wax combustion variations. You observe Brother Cornelius maintaining detailed records of seasonal performance, developing adjustment tables that account for monthly weather patterns with accuracy that would satisfy modern meteorologists. Maintenance procedures reveal the true complexity of these integrated systems. Water containers must be cleaned regularly to prevent mineral buildup that affects flow rates. Metal components require lubrication with specially prepared oils that won't freeze in winter or become too thin in summer heat. Candle positioning must be adjusted as wax pools change shape during burning, affecting thermal transfer to water systems. These aren't set-and-forget devices, but precision instruments requiring constant attention from skilled technicians. The backup systems show remarkable engineering foresight. Brother Cornelius has developed redundant alarm mechanisms that activate if primary systems fail, secondary candle timers that trigger independent alarms, manual override systems that allow immediate alarm activation if automatic systems malfunction, even tertiary backup procedures involving human alarm keepers who monitor the integrated systems and provide emergency wake-up calls if everything else fails. You're witnessing medieval engineering at its most sophisticated, where the practical demands of religious life drive technological innovation that won't be matched by commercial manufacturers for centuries to come. You step into the monastery's scriptorium, where Brother Anselm maintains what appears to be the medieval equivalent of an engineering database, carefully illuminated manuscripts documenting seasonal timing variations with the precision of modern meteorological data. The pages before you contain months of observations recorded in meticulous detail. How December's short days require different candle configurations than June's extended daylight. Why spring humidity effects burn rates differently than autumn dryness, and seasonal adjustment formulas that make your tax calculations seem refreshingly simple. The fundamental challenge facing monastic timekeepers was that prayer schedules remained constant, while natural conditions varied dramatically throughout the year. You watch Brother Anselm explaining that matins must occur at midnight regardless of whether that midnight falls during summer's warm, humid evenings or winter's bitter, dry cold. But candles don't care about liturgical consistency. They burn according to physical laws that change with temperature, humidity, air pressure, and oxygen availability, all of which fluctuate seasonally in ways that throw off timing calculations. The data collection methods demonstrate scientific thinking that wouldn't be formalized for centuries. Brother Anselm shows you records tracking daily temperature variations, noting how morning cold affects candle performance differently than evening cold, and documenting the relationship between weather patterns and timing accuracy. These aren't casual observations, but systematic data gathering that reveals genuine understanding of experimental methodology disguised as religious record-keeping. Historians still argue whether seasonal adjustment techniques were developed independently across monasteries or spread through networks of traveling monks. But the evidence suggests that by the 14th century, most successful monastery timekeeping operations maintained detailed seasonal calibration systems. The mathematical relationships involved would challenge modern statistics students. Multivariable equations accounting for temperature, humidity, air pressure, and seasonal daylight variations, all calculated using nothing more sophisticated than Roman numerals and basic arithmetic. Winter adjustments required completely different approaches than summer modifications. You observe Brother Anselm preparing winter candle stocks with different wax compositions optimized for cold weather performance. Higher tallow content prevents wax from becoming too brittle in freezing temperatures, while modified wick preparations ensure stable flames despite reduced oxygen availability in dense, cold air. The metallurgy changes too. Iron alarm nails become brittle in extreme cold, requiring bronze alternatives or special tempering techniques to maintain reliability. The humidity compensation techniques showcase remarkable understanding of moisture effects on combustion. Summer's high humidity slows candle burn rates by affecting both wax chemistry and flame characteristics, while winter's dry air accelerates burning and changes flame stability. You watch Brother Anselm testing candles in controlled humidity conditions, achieved by storing test candles in sealed containers with wet or dry materials to develop correction factors that account for seasonal moisture variations with remarkable accuracy. But the most sophisticated adjustments address daylight variation effects on human sleep patterns. Medieval monks discovered that natural circadian rhythms affect wake-up sensitivity differently throughout the year. Summer's long daylight hours make people sleep more lightly, requiring gentler alarm systems. Winter's extended darkness creates deeper sleep that demands louder, more persistent wake-up calls. You observe candle clocks with seasonal alarm configurations, different nail arrangements for different times of year, creating customized wake-up intensities matched to seasonal sleep pattern changes. The altitude corrections demonstrate advanced understanding of atmospheric physics. Monasteries built at different elevations experience varying air pressure that affects both candle combustion and water clock mechanisms. Higher altitudes provide less oxygen for burning and lower air pressure for water systems, requiring adjustment calculations that account for elevation-specific performance variations. Brother Anselm maintains altitude correction tables that would satisfy modern aviation engineers, all developed through empirical testing at different monastery locations. Quality assurance becomes exponentially complex when accounting for seasonal variables. You watch testing procedures that involve burning representative candles under controlled seasonal conditions, comparing performance across different weather patterns, and developing reliability statistics that predict alarm system accuracy under various environmental scenarios. These aren't primitive timing devices, but precision instruments requiring sophisticated quality control methodology. The documentation systems reveal the true sophistication of medieval monastery engineering. Brother Anselm shows you standardized record-keeping formats that track timing accuracy, environmental conditions, system modifications, and performance improvements over multiple years. These records allow monasteries to predict seasonal adjustment requirements, plan maintenance schedules, and continuously improve their timekeeping systems through data-driven optimization processes that demonstrate genuine scientific methodology. Storage and preparation techniques adapted to seasonal requirements show remarkable foresight. Summer candle stocks require different storage conditions than winter supplies. Seasonal wick preparations account for humidity effects on fiber materials. Even the workshop schedules adjust seasonally, candle making concentrated during optimal weather conditions, maintenance scheduled during periods when environmental stability minimizes system disruption. You're witnessing medieval engineering that understood environmental systems, thinking centuries before such concepts became formal scientific disciplines. You enter the monastery workshop during the busy pre-dawn hours, where a dozen monks work by flickering candlelight to prepare the timing devices that will regulate their community's spiritual life. The atmosphere combines focused concentration with the easy camaraderie of master craftsmen who have spent years perfecting their techniques together. You're witnessing more than religious devotion. This is a research and development center where engineering innovation flourishes under the guidance of men who have elevated candle making from simple craft to sophisticated science. Brother Marcus, the workshop master, moves between workstations like a modern production manager, checking quality standards and offering technical guidance that demonstrates decades of accumulated expertise. The division of labor reveals surprising specialization for a medieval operation. Brother Thomas focuses exclusively on wick preparation and testing. Brother Peter handles wax chemistry and blending, while Brother Simon specializes in the metalwork required for alarm mechanisms. You observe a level of technical specialization that wouldn't be matched by commercial manufacturers for several centuries. The knowledge transfer methods showcase medieval approaches to preserving and transmitting complex technical information. New monks don't simply observe and imitate. They undergo systematic training programs that begin with basic materials, science, and progress through increasingly sophisticated techniques. You watch Brother Marcus teaching a novice about wax thermal properties, using hands-on demonstrations that make abstract concepts tangible. This isn't just skill transfer, but education in applied physics principles that these monks understand intuitively without formal scientific vocabulary. The tools surrounding you represent generations of continuous improvement and specialization. Brother Thomas shows you wick braiding devices he's designed specifically for creating consistent fiber preparations. Brother Peter's wax blending equipment includes precision measuring tools and temperature control devices that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of materials chemistry. The metalworking tools used for alarm mechanisms rival those found in professional smithies, custom crafted for the specific requirements of timing, device construction. Historians still argue whether monastery workshops developed independently or influenced each other through networks of traveling monks. But the evidence suggests rapid innovation diffusion across monastic communities. Technical improvements developed in one monastery appear in others within months, indicating active information sharing that created an informal research network spanning medieval Europe. You're witnessing the ancestors of modern professional associations, where technical knowledge spreads through communities of practice, united by common challenges and shared expertise. The quality control culture demonstrates remarkable commitment to excellence that goes far beyond simple craftsmanship. Brother Marcus maintains standards that would satisfy modern manufacturing inspectors. Dimensional tolerances for candle consistency, performance testing protocols for alarm reliability, and documentation systems that track improvement opportunities. This isn't just religious perfectionism, but genuine understanding that precision timekeeping requires systematic attention to detail at every level of production. Innovation development follows patterns that would be familiar to modern R&D managers. You observe monks identifying timing problems, brainstorming potential solutions, building prototypes, testing performance under various conditions, and implementing improvements based on systematic evaluation. Brother Peter shows you his experimental notebook, disguised as religious meditations, but actually containing detailed technical observations about wax chemistry improvements he's developing through careful testing. The workshop economics reveal sophisticated understanding of resource optimization and production efficiency. Monks balance quality requirements against material costs, develop techniques that maximize output from limited resources, and create waste reduction methods that would impress modern sustainability advocates. Every scrap of wax gets recycled. Failed candles become raw materials for new attempts, and even wick trimmings find uses in other monastery operations. Collaboration patterns show how technical expertise develops within religious communities. Senior monks mentor younger ones through formal apprenticeship programs that combine spiritual instruction with technical training. Knowledge sharing occurs through regular workshop meetings where monks discuss problems, share solutions, and collectively develop improved techniques. You're watching medieval approaches to collaborative innovation that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of how expertise develops and spreads within specialized communities. The seasonal workflow management reveals advanced understanding of production planning and resource allocation. Summer workshops focus on activities that benefit from warm weather and extended daylight. Winter periods concentrate on precision work that requires careful attention under controlled conditions. Brother Marcus maintains production schedules that optimize workshop efficiency while ensuring adequate supplies for year-round monastery operations. Testing and validation procedures demonstrate commitment to empirical methodology that predates formal scientific approaches by centuries. Every significant design modification undergoes systematic evaluation under realistic operating conditions. Performance data gets collected, analyzed, and used to guide future improvements. You observe systematic experimentation that demonstrates genuine scientific thinking applied to practical engineering challenges. The cross-training programs ensure workshop sustainability and continuous improvement. Monks don't just master single specialties, they develop broad technical competencies that allow flexible response to changing demands and create redundancy that prevents knowledge loss when individual monks are reassigned or pass away. You watch Brother Thomas teaching his wick-making techniques to Brother Peter, while simultaneously learning wax chemistry from his colleague, creating a knowledge-sharing culture that ensures continuous technical development and prevents expertise from becoming isolated in single individuals. You discover that monastery candle clocks evolved far beyond simple wake-up devices to become comprehensive time management systems that regulated every aspect of monastic life. Brother Bartholomew guides you through the Abbey's timing control center, where dozens of specialized candle clocks manage meal schedules, work periods, prayer durations, and even individual monk assignments with precision that would impress modern project managers. You're witnessing medieval operations management at its most sophisticated, where time itself becomes a carefully orchestrated resource, managed through ingenious mechanical systems. The meal timing system demonstrates remarkable understanding of nutritional scheduling and community logistics. Different candle clocks trigger kitchen operations at precisely calculated intervals. One signals when cooking must begin to have meals ready at designated times. Another indicates when monks should gather in the refectory, and a third marks when meals must conclude to maintain the community's spiritual schedule. You observe candles with multiple alarm points that coordinate complex food preparation sequences, bread baking times, soup cooking durations, and even individual course serving schedules managed through sophisticated multi-stage timing devices. Work period management showcases medieval understanding of productivity optimization and task allocation. Brother Bartholomew shows you candle clocks specifically designed to regulate manuscript copying sessions, ensuring scribes maintain consistent work periods while preventing eye strain from excessive close work. Agricultural timing candles coordinate seasonal farming activities, triggering barn work, field cultivation, and harvest operations with precision that maximizes productivity while maintaining the prayer schedule that remains the community's primary focus. The individual monk scheduling system represents perhaps the most sophisticated application of candle clock technology. Personal timing devices allow monks to manage their individual responsibilities, private prayer sessions, specialized work assignments, personal study periods, while remaining synchronized with community activities. You watch Brother Bartholomew demonstrating personal candle clocks that can be customized for individual needs, while maintaining integration with the monastery's master timing system. Historians still argue whether these advanced applications developed gradually through incremental improvements or emerged from sudden insights by particularly innovative monks. But the evidence suggests that by the 15th century, major monasteries operated timing systems of extraordinary complexity. The coordination required to manage dozens of interconnected candle clocks while accounting for seasonal variations, individual requirements, and community needs demonstrates systems thinking that wouldn't be formally recognized until modern management science emerged centuries later. The prayer timing applications extend far beyond simple service scheduling to include duration control for individual devotions, meditation period management, and even breathing exercise timing that helps monks achieve specific spiritual states. You observe candle clocks designed to burn for precise periods that correspond to specific prayer cycles: 15 minutes for personal reflection, 30 minutes for individual psalm recitation, 60 minutes for intensive meditation sessions. These aren't just timepieces, but spiritual tools that help monks achieve consistent devotional practices. Workshop scheduling coordination demonstrates sophisticated understanding of resource allocation and production management. Different craft activities require different timing patterns. Manuscript illumination needs short, intense focus periods with frequent breaks, while candle making benefits from longer, sustained work sessions. You watch Brother Bartholomew managing workshop schedules through interconnected timing systems that optimize productivity while maintaining the spiritual rhythms that define monastic life. The medical applications show remarkable integration of timekeeping with healthcare management. Monastery infirmaries use candle clocks to regulate medicine dosing schedules, track patient recovery periods, and coordinate nursing care activities with precision that rivals modern hospital systems. Specific candles mark intervals for checking fever patients, administering herbal remedies, and monitoring critical cases that require regular attention throughout day and night cycles. Educational timing systems regulate the monastery school operations with sophistication that would satisfy modern academic administrators. Candle clocks manage lesson durations, break periods, study sessions, and examination schedules while ensuring educational activities remain properly integrated with religious observances. You observe timing devices that coordinate multiple simultaneous classes, manage individual tutoring sessions, and even regulate recreational periods that provide necessary relief from intensive intellectual work. The guest management applications demonstrate understanding of hospitality logistics that extends far beyond simple accommodation. Visiting monks, traveling clergy, and lay visitors require coordinated services, meal timing, lodging assignments, chapel access, and departure scheduling, all managed through specialized candle clock systems that ensure guests receive proper attention while minimizing disruption to monastery routines. Quality control for these complex systems requires testing procedures that would challenge modern systems engineers. Brother Bartholomew shows you validation protocols that ensure dozens of interconnected timing devices maintain coordination under various operating conditions. Backup systems provide redundancy for critical timing functions, while maintenance schedules ensure continuous, reliable operation of the entire integrated network. The documentation systems reveal the true sophistication of these advanced applications. Detailed schedules coordinate hundreds of daily activities, tracking forms, monitor system performance, and improvement records document ongoing optimization efforts. You're witnessing medieval operations management that demonstrates systematic approaches to complexity that anticipate modern organizational development by centuries. Integration challenges become exponentially complex when multiple specialized systems must coordinate reliably while accommodating individual variations and environmental changes that affect different timing devices in different ways. You find yourself in the monastery during a howling winter storm, watching Brother Augustine frantically adjusting candle positions and adding protective barriers around critical timing devices as wind gusts threaten to extinguish flames that regulate the entire community's schedule. The reality of medieval candle clock reliability becomes starkly apparent as you observe the constant battle against environmental conditions that could throw off carefully calibrated systems and leave dozens of monks oversleeping through their religious obligations, though you'd probably just hit the snooze button and deal with divine consequences later. Wind presents the most immediate and persistent challenge to flame-based timekeeping systems. You watch monks developing ingenious solutions, protective lanterns with carefully calculated ventilation that provides necessary oxygen while blocking disruptive air currents, strategic placement of timing candles within monastery architecture that utilizes stone walls and archways as natural windbreaks, and even primitive weather prediction techniques that allow preemptive system adjustments when storms approach. The engineering solutions demonstrate sophisticated understanding of fluid dynamics principles that wouldn't be formally studied for centuries. Wax quality variations create consistency problems that would frustrate modern quality control managers. Medieval wax production depends on natural sources that vary seasonally. Beeswax quality changes with flower availability and bee health, while tallow consistency fluctuates with livestock diet and seasonal fat content. You observe Brother Augustine testing each batch of candle-making materials, developing acceptance criteria that ensure timing reliability while working within the limitations of pre-industrial material consistency. His testing methods include burn rate verification, flame stability assessment, and durability evaluation under various environmental conditions. Temperature fluctuations affect candle performance in complex ways that require systematic compensation. Extreme cold makes wax brittle and reduces flame size, while excessive heat causes wax to become too soft and creates unstable burning characteristics. You watch monks developing temperature management techniques, thermal mass placement that moderates temperature swings around critical timing devices, insulation methods using available materials like straw and wool, and even primitive heating systems that maintain stable microclimates for essential candle clocks. Humidity problems demonstrate the challenge of maintaining precision timing in environments where moisture control is nearly impossible. High humidity slows candle burn rates and affects metal alarm mechanisms, while extremely dry conditions accelerate burning and create fire hazard concerns. Brother Augustine shows you humidity compensation techniques that include seasonal wick preparations, moisture-resistant alarm device coatings, and storage methods that maintain optimal candle conditions despite ambient humidity variations. Historians still argue whether monastery fire safety concerns led to timing system innovations, or whether improved systems reduced fire risks as secondary benefits. But the evidence shows continuous development of safer candle clock designs throughout the medieval period. You observe fire prevention measures that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of combustion hazards, flame containment systems, emergency extinguishing procedures, and backup timing methods that activate if primary systems must be shut down due to fire safety concerns. Theft and vandalism present unexpected challenges in communities supposedly devoted to spiritual harmony. You discover that valuable timing candles, particularly those containing expensive beeswax or metal components, sometimes disappear, disrupting critical scheduling systems. Brother Augustine explains security measures that protect essential timing devices while maintaining the open, trusting atmosphere expected in religious communities. Hidden timing systems, decoy devices, and community monitoring approaches that balance security needs with monastic ideals. Maintenance scheduling becomes exponentially complex when dozens of timing devices require different service intervals, while the systems they control cannot be interrupted without disrupting essential monastery operations. You watch Brother Augustine managing maintenance rotations that ensure continuous timing coverage while allowing necessary service work. Backup systems provide temporary timing during maintenance periods, while standardized replacement procedures minimize downtime for critical scheduling functions. User error presents persistent challenges when dozens of monks must interact with sophisticated timing systems while focusing primarily on spiritual rather than technical concerns. Training programs teach proper candle clock operation, but individual monks sometimes make mistakes that affect community schedules. You observe error prevention designs that make timing systems more foolproof, clear operating procedures that minimize confusion, and recovery protocols that quickly restore proper timing when mistakes occur. Supply chain disruptions affect timing system reliability when essential materials become unavailable due to weather, political conflicts, or economic problems. Medieval monasteries must maintain timing operations regardless of external supply problems, driving development of alternative materials and techniques. Brother Augustine shows you emergency candle formulations using locally available materials, improvised wick preparations from monastery-grown fibers, and simplified timing systems that maintain basic scheduling capability when normal supplies are disrupted. The troubleshooting expertise developed by monastery technicians rivals that of modern service engineers. You observe diagnostic techniques for identifying timing problems, systematic approaches to isolating failure causes, and repair methods that restore reliable operation using limited tools and materials. Brother Augustine's troubleshooting methodology demonstrates logical problem-solving approaches that anticipate formal engineering diagnosis procedures by centuries. Equipment failure analysis reveals sophisticated understanding of failure modes and reliability engineering. Monks document common failure patterns, identify design weaknesses that cause recurring problems, and develop improved designs that address systematic reliability issues. The continuous improvement culture ensures that lessons learned from failures drive ongoing system enhancements that increase reliability and reduce maintenance requirements. You're witnessing medieval approaches to systems reliability that demonstrate engineering thinking focused on maintaining critical operations under challenging conditions with limited resources, skills that remain relevant to modern technical challenges. You stand in a 16th century clockmaker's workshop in Nuremberg, watching Master Johann examining a detailed sketch of monastic candle clock mechanisms that will influence his latest mechanical timepiece design. The transition from flame-based to gear-driven timekeeping didn't happen overnight. It evolved through decades of cross-pollination between monastic timing innovation and emerging mechanical engineering expertise. You're witnessing how centuries of monk-developed timing technology becomes the foundation for precision clockmaking that will revolutionize European society's relationship with time itself. The gear train principles used in early mechanical clocks directly reflect timing interval concepts perfected in monastery candle systems. You observe Master Johann studying sketches of multi-stage candle clocks, where sequential alarms create complex timing sequences, then applying similar logic to mechanical escapement systems that regulate gear rotation rates. The conceptual leap from controlled wax consumption to controlled gear motion represents evolution rather than revolution. Mechanical clocks inherited timing philosophy developed through generations of monastic experimentation. Alarm mechanism design shows the clearest direct inheritance from monastery innovations. Early mechanical alarm clocks use striker systems that directly mirror the nail-dropping techniques perfected by medieval monks. You watch Master Johann crafting mechanical strikers that hit bells at predetermined times, using principles identical to those employed in candle-based alarm systems centuries earlier. The sound engineering knowledge, which frequencies penetrate sleep most effectively, how alarm volume should relate to ambient noise levels, transfers directly from monastic experience to commercial clockmaking. The precision manufacturing techniques required for reliable mechanical clocks evolved from quality control methods developed in monastery workshops. Master Johann demonstrates measuring techniques that mirror those used by Brother Augustine for candle dimension control, calibration methods that reflect monastic timing verification procedures, and quality assurance approaches that clearly derive from centuries of monastery timing system development. You're watching industrial precision emerge from religious devotion to accurate timekeeping. Historians still argue whether mechanical clock development would have proceeded differently without monastic timing innovation. But the evidence suggests that monastery-developed concepts significantly accelerated mechanical timekeeping advancement. The systematic approach to timing problems, sophisticated understanding of accuracy requirements, and comprehensive solutions to environmental challenges, pioneered by monks, provided intellectual foundations that commercial clockmakers built upon rather than developed independently. The urban scheduling applications of early mechanical clocks directly reflect monastic community timing management. Medieval towns installing public clocks borrowed organizational concepts perfected in monastery communities. Coordinated meal timing, work period regulation, meeting schedules, and community activity coordination. You observe town councils consulting with monks about optimal scheduling practices, essentially adapting monastic time management expertise to secular community needs. Manufacturing workshop organization in early clockmaking centers mirrors the collaborative technical development culture pioneered in monastery workshops. Master Johann shows you apprenticeship programs that clearly derive from monastic knowledge transfer methods, quality control procedures that reflect monastery precision standards, and innovation development processes that follow patterns established in religious communities centuries earlier. The guild system that regulates clockmaking trades directly inherits organizational structures perfected in monastic technical workshops. The scientific methodology emerging in Renaissance technological development shows clear influence from systematic observation and testing procedures developed by medieval monks. You watch Master Johann documenting design modifications, testing performance improvements, and analyzing failure modes using approaches that mirror monastic technical development methods. The empirical approach to engineering problems that characterizes Renaissance innovation clearly builds upon intellectual foundations laid by monastery technicians. International technology transfer mechanisms that spread clockmaking expertise across Europe reflect networks originally established for sharing monastic innovations. The same traveling monk networks that disseminated candle clock improvements now carry mechanical clockmaking knowledge between regions. Master Johann corresponds with clockmakers across the continent using communication patterns that clearly derive from monastic technical information sharing systems developed centuries earlier. Educational approaches that train the next generation of clockmakers directly inherit teaching methods perfected in monastery workshops. Technical knowledge transmission, hands-on learning programs, and systematic skill development procedures all show clear ancestry in monastic technical education. You observe Master Johann training apprentices using pedagogical methods that unmistakably derive from centuries of monastery experience in developing technical expertise within religious communities. The philosophical approach to time measurement and control that defines Renaissance clockmaking clearly inherits intellectual frameworks developed by medieval monks. Understanding time as a resource that can be measured, controlled, and optimized for human purposes represents conceptual development that occurred first in monastic communities and later spread to secular society through clockmaking innovations that made precise timekeeping accessible beyond religious institutions. Quality expectations for timing, device reliability, and accuracy reflect standards originally established by monastic requirements for precise prayer scheduling. Commercial clockmakers inherited customer expectations for timing precision that were established by centuries of monastery timing system performance. Master Johann works to accuracy standards that clearly derive from religious requirements rather than secular convenience, demonstrating how spiritual needs drove technological development that later served commercial purposes. You're witnessing how innovations developed for religious purposes become foundations for technological advancement that transforms entire societies, creating legacies that extend far beyond their original spiritual applications. You find yourself in a 17th century monastery where Brother Francis carefully extinguishes what may be among the last candle clocks used for primary timekeeping. As the newly installed mechanical clock in the bell tower chimes the hour with metallic precision that renders flame-based timing obsolete. The transition feels bittersweet, centuries of ingenious innovation giving way to more reliable technology, but taking with it the intimate human connection between time and the gentle dance of flame consuming wax. Yet you sense that something profound has been preserved in this technological evolution, knowledge and wisdom that transcends mere timekeeping mechanisms. The mechanical clocks, now governing monastery schedules, operate with accuracy that makes candle timing seem primitive, but you observe that the precision comes at a cost. The new devices require specialized maintenance from traveling clockmakers, expensive replacement parts manufactured in distant workshops, and technical expertise that few monks possess. Brother Francis explains with gentle melancholy how the community has traded self-sufficiency for accuracy, independence for precision, a bargain that brings benefits, but also losses that may not be fully understood until the knowledge they're abandoning has disappeared forever. You watch the younger monks eagerly embracing mechanical timing technology, fascinated by gear trains and escapements that seem almost magical compared to the straightforward physics of burning wax. But the older brothers move more slowly in this transition, their hands still instinctively checking candle burn rates, even as clock chimes announce the hours. They understand something being lost, not just technical knowledge, but a deeper connection to time as a natural process, rather than an abstract measurement imposed upon nature. The final candle workshops are closing throughout Europe, their specialized knowledge scattered as monks are reassigned to other duties more suited to the mechanical age. Brother Francis shows you the last handwritten notebooks documenting centuries of accumulated timing expertise, wax chemistry formulations, seasonal adjustment tables, troubleshooting procedures developed through generations of careful observation. These records may survive in monastery libraries, but the living tradition of their application fades as practical necessity no longer drives their preservation. Historians still debate whether this technological transition represents progress or loss, improvement or diminishment, but you witness both simultaneously occurring. Mechanical clocks provide superior accuracy and reliability, enabling more complex scheduling and greater precision in community coordination. Yet something ineffable disappears with the extinguishing of those carefully tended flames, a human scale of technology that individuals could understand completely, maintain independently, and adapt to their specific needs through personal expertise rather than specialized training. The lessons preserved from centuries of monastic timing innovation extend far beyond mere clock-making techniques. You recognize principles of systematic observation, empirical testing, quality control, and continuous improvement that anticipated scientific methodology by centuries. The collaborative technical development, knowledge preservation, and innovation diffusion demonstrated in monastery workshops created templates for organized technological advancement that influenced far more than timekeeping applications. As Brother Francis prepares the monastery's final timing candles for ceremonial rather than practical use, you sense the deeper significance of what these monks accomplished. They proved that human ingenuity can solve seemingly impossible problems using available resources and careful thinking. They demonstrated that precision and reliability don't require advanced materials or complex machinery. They require understanding, patience, and systematic attention to detail that transforms simple tools into sophisticated instruments. The wind outside grows gentler now, no longer threatening to extinguish flames that have guided this community through countless nights of prayer and service. The stone walls that once protected delicate timing systems from environmental disruption now shelter different technologies, but they remain witness to human creativity that that found solutions where others saw only problems, that achieved precision through persistence, and that served divine purposes through mechanical excellence. Brother Francis lights one final candle, not for timekeeping, but for remembrance, its flame flickering with the accumulated wisdom of centuries. You watch the light dance across walls that have seen generations of monks bend over workbenches, perfecting techniques that pushed the boundaries of medieval technology to serve their spiritual calling. The flame burns steadily, consuming wax in patterns that once regulated an entire community's relationship with time, now serving only to honor memory and mark the passage from one technological era to another. The mechanical clock chimes again, its sound echoing through corridors where candlelit alarm systems once woke monks for midnight prayers. But in the gentle glow of that memorial flame, you glimpse something eternal that transcends both old and new technologies. The human drive to understand, to improve, and to serve purposes greater than individual convenience through the patient application of knowledge, skill, and devotion. The monastery grows quiet now, not with the expectant silence of monks awaiting candle-timed alarms, but with the peaceful rest of those who trust mechanical precision to wake them at proper hours. Yet, in that quietude, echoes remain of tapping hammers positioning alarm nails, whispered discussions of wax chemistry improvements, and the satisfied sighs of craftsmen whose ingenious solutions bridged the gap between ancient timing needs and modern technological capabilities. The candle burns lower, its flame smaller, but no less steady, carrying forward the legacy of those medieval innovators who proved that serving God and advancing human knowledge are not separate pursuits, but aspects of the same deeper calling. In workshops and laboratories around the world, their descendants still gather around problems that seem impossible, armed with patience, observation, and the quiet confidence that solutions exist for those persistent enough to find them. As Brother Francis finally extinguishes that last flame, darkness falls gently across stone walls that have sheltered centuries of innovation. But the knowledge lives on, not just in library manuscripts, but in the ongoing human tradition of looking at available materials, identifying challenges, and refusing to accept that problems cannot be solved through careful thought, systematic testing, and the kind of patient craftsmanship that transforms necessity into elegant solutions. Sleep comes easier now, knowing that somewhere in the world, inheritors of monastic ingenuity continue working by whatever light they have available, solving problems that matter, serving purposes beyond themselves, and proving again that human creativity, properly applied, can make time itself serve the deeper rhythms of meaningful life. The mechanical clocks keep perfect time, but the spirit that created precision from simplicity continues burning, steady and reliable, through the quiet hours when the world rests and dreams of tomorrow's possibilities.